On this episode of Warrior Whispers, we explore two powerful unexplained phenomena. One of them is the power of intuition. If something is telling you you probably ought to go somewhere and do something, maybe you should listen. And the second is the unbelievable power of a mama bear protecting her cubs. This is Warrior Whispers, where we highlight the beauty of heroic and beautiful actions against all that's crazy and beastie in today's environment. Today we have Alyssa Dewitt, who has a fascinating story of a trip that she took to the beach in Michigan. Welcome, Alyssa.
Hi.
First, I'd like to ask, so this was back in 2021 when all this happened.
Yeah.
What was going on at the time? You were thinking about going to the beach. You weren't sure
Yeah.
if you were going to go to the beach. You were,
It was the end of May, so that's a little early to be going to the beach, but that day was really warm. It was like a really random warm day, and I was exhausted because I was 20 weeks pregnant and chasing three other kids around. So I was kind of fighting with myself like, do I take them? Do I stay home? I was really tired. I didn't want to go, but I kept telling myself, "No, we're just going to go. I feel like we need to do this. We're going to go to the beach."
yeah, yeah. And then you get to the beach. And is this a beach you normally go to?
Yes, First Street Beach is probably our most popular beach here in Manistee. So I took them. I always take them to First Street Beach, and it has two parking lots. It's got the large parking lot, and then off to the other side is a smaller parking lot that kind of leads to the pier. And I always go to the big parking lot, but for some reason that day, I was like, I think we're gonna go to this little parking lot. And I don't know why I did that, but I just felt
Mm.
like that's where we needed to go. So we parked in the little parking lot and walked down to the water, which is like right by the pier. We weren't too far from the pier.
Mhm. It was just your gut instinct that said that you need to go on that side or
Yep.
some other force.
Just a feeling.
Just a feeling. Just a
A feeling.
So then you're on the beach and describe the conditions. It wasn't ideal from what
No,
I
it was
said.
really, really windy. I mean,
Yeah.
the sand was whipping us pretty hard, but it was the kids, of course, they don't care. They were having a blast splashing in the water. So yeah, it was, I mean, the waves were coming up over the pier. They were like pier level and over. It was,
Oh man. Yeah. Yeah. And then something happened that got your attention.
yeah. So I was sitting there watching my kids splash around in the water, and I had seen a group of young girls come around the pier, and they entered the water over kind of where we were sitting. And I was watching them as they were going in, and they were kind of getting farther and farther out. And I kind of said to myself, like, that is not safe. I remember telling myself that is not safe.
Yeah.
And I was kind of watching them for a little bit, and then I was taking pictures of the kids, and I happened to look up, and one of the girls was in the water waving her arms towards me. And I knew immediately that they
Yeah.
were getting sucked out.
Yeah. Oh man. That had to have been horrifying.
Yeah, it was um I kind of went straight into like fight mode. I like immediately jumped up and ran out onto the pier, and like my youngest I think was 3 at the time.
Mhm.
So I was by myself with them. There was not a single other person on that half of the beach. So I was like trying to keep my kids at the end of the pier so that they were safe, and then getting myself down to the part of the pier where they were kind of getting thrown around and trying to call for help, but they couldn't hear me because the wind and the waves were so loud. I knew that I didn't do something at that point that they were going to die. Like, there was no waiting for help at that point. The waves were just, they were like getting whipped into the pier and then sucked back out, and then sucked out towards, like, back this way, and then they were get sucked back this way. I mean, they were all over the place. I mean, it was pretty terrifying to watch them, get thrown around like that.
Oh man. So you tried to call. and nobody could hear you because the wind was blowing. You got your kids out of the water and probably watching with
Yeah,
great
well,
interest.
they they were scared. They didn't know what was going on. So they had kept running, trying to run down to me on the pier. And I kept having to scream at them to go back because I was like, all it's going to take is for one of these waves to come up and knock them off. And then I have an even bigger issue on my hands. Um,
Yeah,
they're just little, they can't even swim, let alone, I've got the four other girls in the water on this side. Last thing I need is my babies in the water too.
right. Yeah.
But on top of trying to keep them, off the pier and safe at the same time, I I kept 911 on the phone in hopes that maybe they would be able to either trace my call or hear something that was going on. So I just
Yeah.
laid my phone down on the pier
Yeah.
and I ended up I laid on my stomach and like the top half of me leaned off the pier, and I was just reaching for them because they were getting kind of thrown all over the place. So I was reaching for them and getting slammed in the face with waves at the same time, like I was drowning myself. And I would get one of their hands and the wave would pull them away and they'd get sucked back out. And at one point, one of the girls looked at me and she was like, I'm going to die. She's like, I'm going to die, aren't I? And I was like, at that point, I was like, I don't know, something just, kicked into gear inside me. I don't know if it's the mom in me or what, but I looked at her and I was
Mhm.
like, I am not going to let you die. I'm going to get you out of this water. And
Mhm.
I was able to, it felt like forever. I'm sure it wasn't that long, but I was able
Mhm.
to pull all three of the girls that were out farther up the side of the pier by myself, one by one.
Mhm.
And then there was a fourth girl who was a little bit more in, but she was so exhausted that we had to, once we got everybody up the side, we were able to go around and pull her out from the shore. And she couldn't get out. The waves kept knocking her over, and she was so exhausted from trying to swim that she needed help getting out that way.
Wow. Wow. What was going through your mind when all this was happening?
Honestly, I think it's all a blur.
Yeah.
My biggest thing was I need to get them out of the water, and
Yeah.
not getting them out wasn't an option for me. So I was going to do whatever I had to do to
Mm.
make sure that I got to them.
Amazing. Did the police or first responders show up at some
They showed up as soon as I got everybody off the pier.
point? Of
I
course.
I had everybody sitting down. We were assessing injuries because some of the girls had scrapes and bumps and bruises. And as soon as I got everybody like sat down and was checking everybody over, they came flying in the parking lot. Wonderful timing.
Yeah. Right. Did the kids go to the hospital for getting checked out, or was everybody just in perfect shape after
I
you
think
pulled them from the
everybody
water?
was pretty Everybody was pretty good. I don't think any of the girls had to go. I went myself to
Mm.
go. I have rheumatoid arthritis and my right wrist is completely fused.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm right-handed. I pulled them all up the side of the pier with my right hand that's fused. So my bone's a little bit more fragile, and it was not feeling very great once all the shock wore off and everything. So we just made sure that it wasn't fractured or anything, and I was all set.
Wow. Wow. So you pulled everybody up with your weak wrist.
Yes, yep. And at that, in the moment, that didn't matter to me.
Dang it.
I was gonna figure it out no matter what. Once everything, once everything wore off, I was like, oh, that doesn't feel very good. But I was pretty scraped up from the side of the pier. It's all like cement and rock.
Yeah.
But yeah, everything looked good. I wasn't, no fractures, nothing, just some scrapes. But other than that, everything looked fine.
Mm.
Baby looked good too. We got the baby checked out too. I was about 20 weeks pregnant with my fourth child at the time.
Wow.
And from just like laying on the pier on my stomach, they just wanted to make sure everything looked good, and he looked great
Sure.
too.
Yeah. What's his name?
Arrow.
Arrow.
Yeah. He's a sweetheart.
Did you keep in touch with any of the kids or the parents after?
Yes, actually, so I work at the local high school here, and some of the girls do go to the high school, so I see them every day.
No kidding.
Yeah, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. What have they said to you regarding the
They they were young when this happened, so I'm not sure that they really understood how serious the situation was. And now they're a little bit older now, so every once in a while it gets brought up, and they'll be like, "Do you
Yeah.
remember that one time when you saved me from drowning?" One of them said that to me the other day, and I said, "Yes, yes, I remember."
What are some takeaways that you think that you gained from this experience?
Always trust your intuition.
Always
Just,
trust your
yeah.
intuition.
I'm pretty big on, following my feelings, and I really do think I was meant to be there that day, and I had the feelings that I had, to take the kids to the beach and to choose that side of the beach. I think I had those feelings for a reason, and because I mean those girls would not be here today if I had not been there. There was not anybody else on that side of the beach that would have seen them struggling, and just in this short amount of time that they started struggling and I got out there, I mean they were already, their heads were already going underwater. There just wasn't a whole lot of time to get them the help they needed, and I can't imagine that anybody else would have came along in time if I hadn't been there.
Mhm. I think you're right. I think there was a reason you were there. You were pulled there. So thank you for hearing that pull of your intuition. Is there anything that you may have learned about yourself through all this?
Well, mama bear strength is like a real thing, let me tell you. And it's not just with my kids, it's with anybody's kids. I'm always going to be I'm always going to be in fight mode. If someone's in trouble, I'm right there. That seems to be the trend with me. So that was it's very interesting, the strength that you can, pull out of yourself when somebody's, fighting for their life. It's wild.
Hmm. Amen to that. Well, anything else you want to share with listeners before we?
Well, I'm sure a lot of people ask me about Arrow.
Yeah, yeah,
I had him 6 weeks early. He's
yeah.
spent quite a bit of time in and out of the hospital, but he
Mm,
is a very spunky, lively 3-year-old now
mm,
with beautiful ice blue eyes. So we all just really love him, and he was like the last piece to our little family.
mm.
So he's doing great. He's doing really great despite his, journey into the world. So he's doing great.
Well, thank you, Alyssa. This was very inspirational, and I wish best of luck to you. You never know what superpowers you have inside of you. You don't know the strength you have until it's tested. You don't know why intuition calls you to something. But if you're present and aware, as warriors are, you will probably surprise yourself.